Hersheypark is definitely one of America's best amusement parks. They are constantly spending lots of money to add new additions to the park, including thrill rides, landscaping, new food options, and most importantly, coasters. All eyes seem to be turned to Hershey, Pennsylvania, after they debuted Candymonium, which looks to be a top-tier B&M Hyper. This fantastic roller coaster is part of a $150 million expansion, which also includes a new front gate and entrance, 2 new gift shops, lots of new dining experiences, and a Hershey's Kiss fountain. So, with Hersheypark steadily rising up among the ranks of American parks, how could I not try and predict Hersheypark's next roller coaster? Hi, my name is Ishan from Amazing Coasters, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss out on any more content. Now, let's get into the video and discuss who could build Hersheypark's 15th roller coaster. I don't care what the park says, that does not count as a roller coaster. Don't turn into Six Flags, Hershey. So, the first step of determining what a park may get in the future is looking at the past. In other words, what manufacturers would be willing to work with Hersheypark? If we look at the rides that Hersheypark has constructed in the past 5 or 10 years, certain companies jump out. Obviously, Hersheypark installed Candymonium, a B&M Hyper, just this year. 2019 came with Reese's Cup Fusion. This was built by the Sally Corporation, who is the same company who made the Justice Leagues at all the Six Flags parks. The Sally Corporation, however, is infamous for their dark rides and have never actually constructed a coaster. This is the same story for 2018, when the Breaker's Edge water coaster was installed by ProSlide Technology, who have never built a coaster. 2017, however, was different, in that Hersheypark installed the Hershey's Triple Tower. These are 3 side-by-side S&S drop towers. In 2015, they built Laugh Track, which is a Mauer Ride spinning coaster. Coco Cruiser came in 2014 and was built by Zamperla. Lastly, of course, 2012 brought Skyrush, an Intamin hypercoaster. This means our final list of possible manufacturers is B&M, S&S, Mauer Rides, Zamperla, and Intamin. Of course, that isn't to say that other manufacturers like RMC couldn't build a roller coaster at Hersheypark. They definitely could, and I'm actually going to talk about that later. However, the 5 companies that I have listed have a higher chance, because they have already built a positive relationship with Hersheypark. Now that we have a list of possible manufacturers, we can evaluate Hershey's current lineup of coasters and see if they have any gaps. In my opinion, Hersheypark has one of the best collections of roller coasters in the country, so there really aren't any huge gaps. However, there are definitely some areas I think they could improve in. They have 1 kiddie coaster in Coco Cruiser, which is really all they need. I mean, they could go the Magic Mountain route and just buy a ton of kiddie coasters, but I really don't see Hershey doing that. They also have 5 great family coasters in Comet, Wild Mouse, Trailblazer, Laugh Track, and Super Duper Looper, and some of those, like Comet, could even border on the thrill side. I classify all of their other coasters as thrilling. We have Candymonium, the trio of Intamins, and Skyrush, Stormrunner, and Fahrenheit, the B&M Invert Great Bear, the Vekoma Boomerang Sidewinder, and the 2 GCIs Lightning Racer and Wildcat. Looking at it, I think they could use 1. What everybody has been talking about, an RMC. 2. Another launch coaster. 3. They could also use another B&M. And lastly, 4. They need a more modern family coaster. Now I will dive into some options. First up, an RMC. Now, I don't want to go too much in depth about this. There are tons of great videos about Hersheypark RMCing one of their current Woodies. If you are interested, I'll put one of my favorites in the description. However, Hershey does have 3 wooden coasters. Comet's layout would not provide that much for RMC to work with, and even though Lightning Racers would, it is loved by guests. There is 1 wooden coaster, however, that would be a prime contender for the RMC treatment. This, of course, is Wildcat. Many say that it should not be RMC'd because it has historical significance and that it was the first ever coaster built by Great Coasters International, or GCI for short. However, you have to remember that amusement parks are businesses, and if RMC Wildcat could bring in the guests, they'll do it. Plus, Wildcat has a unique twister layout that RMC could really turn into one of the best coasters in Pennsylvania. Also, be sure to stick around to the end of the video, because I'll be later explaining when these possible attractions could come. Personally, I think that the second hole in Hershey's lineup is a second launch coaster. Hershey could use this because currently their only launch coaster is Stormrunner, and that is a very high-intensity ride. It has a hydraulic launch, a top hat, and multiple inversions after all. So, I think that they could use either a family launch coaster or a different style of launch coaster. Let me explain what I mean. I'm talking about a coaster that incorporates a launch, but would also nicely balance out Storm Runner. When I think of this, two models come to mind, and luckily, they are both by Swiss manufacturer Intamin, who was on my list of companies that have recently worked with Hershey. The first of which is a family launch coaster, similar to Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. Of course, it doesn't have to have the same level of theming as that ride, though. Hershey, after all, is not a theme park. It is an amusement park. However, a ride like this, or Wavebreaker, at SeaWorld San Antonio would also hit two birds with one stone. This is because it fills the gap of another launch coaster, and also fills the gap of a more modern family coaster, but more on that later. The other possible launch coaster I could see is, wait for it, the Ha Racer. This would bring another launch and a single rail coaster to the park. One issue is that they already have a dueling coaster in Lightning Racer. Now, I honestly don't know if Hersheypark would care if they have two dueling coasters. I mean, Magic Mountain didn't when they added West Coast Racers. Well, I guess that's different. I mean, technically, only one of those two actually duels. Yeah, I'm looking at you. Anyway, even if Hershey didn't want another racing model, they could just build a coaster that doesn't race. For example, the Overdrive model. My main concern with this, however, is that there will also be a single rail coaster just 2 hours away at Six Flags Great Adventure in Jersey Devil. For that reason, I think the Intamin Family Launch Coaster would make a better fit. Third, I'll talk about the Family Coaster. If you look at Hershey's Family Coasters, all of them, with one exception being Laugh Track, are older. Now, calm down, I'm not saying that they are outdated, because they're not. However, Wild Mouse was built in 1999, and Comet, Trailblazer, and Super Duper Looper are the three oldest coasters in the park, dating back to 1946, 74, and 77 respectively. So, you can see my point, in that another modern family coaster is needed. Again, the Family Intamin Launch Coaster would work great here. I would also like an S&S Family Suspended Coaster, like Merlin's Mayhem at Dutch Wonderland. And by the way, if you feel like I'm missing any coasters that this park could add, you should definitely put it in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts on this park's exciting future. The last option I will discuss is a large-scale B&M coaster. Hershey has lots of intense coasters like Sky Rush, Storm Runner, Fahrenheit, the Boomerang, Lightning Racer, Wildcat, and even Great Bear. I think they could use a big, graceful B&M. Okay, so they already have a Hyper and an Invert, so those are off the table. We haven't seen a floorless or a stand-up in a long time either, so I doubt that Hershey would get one of those. There is also a flying coaster just 2 hours away at Six Flags Great Adventure too. So that leaves a wing coaster, a dive coaster, and a giga coaster. Now, I know what you're saying. Where could Hershey possibly fit this? Well, there is a decent-sized plot of land next to Candymonium. There is also tons of open space across Hersheypark Drive that they could acquire. They would, however, have to build a bridge across the road. The nearest gigas are at King's Dominion, Canada's Wonderland, and at Cedar Point, which are far enough away. There is also a wing and a dive over at Cedar Point too, which is around 6 hours away. I don't know why, and who knows, maybe they will eventually build a dive machine, but I personally just do not see Hersheypark building a B&M dive coaster. I could, however, see a wing or a giga, and if I had to choose one, I would have to go with the wing, and even though they have Skyrush, which has wing seats, that's just such a different experience. Skyrush is all about those fast Intimidator 305 or Maverick-style transitions with lots of airtime and intensity. A wing coaster would provide a more graceful experience that focuses more on inversions. And although a lot of coaster enthusiasts may not love B&M wing coasters, I know that a lot of the general public do, and Hershey could definitely bring in a ton of guests if they marketed it right. So, to recap, I think that Hershey needs an RMC, a B&M wing coaster, a more modern family coaster, and another launch coaster. As for when this could all come to Hersheypark, I will say 2024. Hersheypark has been adding roller coasters every 3 to 5 years, and after a big investment like Candymonium and Chocolate Town, they'll probably want a couple of off years. However, I think that maybe in 2022 they will add a thrilling flat ride, like an S&S Scream and Swing. Whether I am right or not, the future of Hersheypark looks bright. Tell me in the comments, what is your dream coaster to come to Hersheypark and why? I'd love to hear your responses. Also, I'd like to express my appreciation to all of you guys who made it this far into the video. We have recently reached 2 milestones. These are 50 subscribers and 500 views. This may not seem like much, but I am thrilled that we got this far. If you don't want to miss out on any more content, be sure to subscribe. Also, feel free to give this video a big ol' thumbs up. This is Ishan from Amazing Coasters, and I'll see you all next time.